Welcome back to another Crash Team Racing developer time video. Already I'm halfway through all of the developer times. That is impressive. I mean, I know I still have a ways to go, and I still dread the day I go up against all of William P's times, but so far I'm genuinely happy with my progress. Last time I was up against Alex B. Some of them I took on no problem, some of them kept me for a good long while, and then there's Tiger Temple. We don't speak of that. Today it's up against Mathieu R on Polar Pass, Clockwork Wampa, Barin Ruins, Prehistoric Playground, Spyro Circuit, Gingerbread Joyride, and Drive-Thru Danger. I want to say my time with Mathieu was comparable to Sebastian M, in the sense that some of these times really wanted me to better myself. They can be either a solid time or a worthwhile challenge, and in general could be up there with some of my favorite times. Mad respect to you, Mathieu. And taking on Mathieu, I'm gonna bring Pasadena Opossum for one last rodeo, followed by the lovable Stu, as I feel he deserves some time in the spotlight, as well as my main man, Spyro the Dragon. All that said, let's get into it. First up, we have Polar Pass. I'm fairly sure a certain Wampa Lewis has had his share of troubles on this track. You'd think I'd be just as worried, right? Well, you take a good look at my 9 attempts and you tell me how I did in comparison. In all seriousness though, this track wasn't really that bad. Truth be told, I have never taken the faster shortcut when it comes to laps 2 and 3, so that was something I had to practice a little while. Once I got the hang of it, I knew I got this in the bag. This track really boils down to your general knowledge of how to hug those corners. So long as you have a pretty good lead against Mathieu, everything in this track should be smooth sailing.
Stop dragging your feet.
Clockwork Wampa. I like this track, but I knew I had to step up my game on this one, clocking in at 16 attempts. The trick with this one requires you keeping a good steady lead, keeping those good lines intact, and generally knowing how to go through the cogs without getting squashed, as well as making sure the giant clock handle doesn't slow you down. I knew I could keep ahead of Mathieu if I tried my hardest, but once I worked my way around these hazards, this turned out to be another solid run. Next is Barin Ruins, a relatively easy time to beat, this one taking me 4 attempts. Already I knew I could play this track relatively well, but if I was going to stand a chance against Matthew, I had to keep myself from effectively touching the ice, as I know for a fact that'll definitely hinder your time. The robots were the least of my concerns. But yeah, what you see here is basically what you get. Another standard easy peasy time trial. Prehistoric Playground. You know, it's funny how some of my favorite tracks in the entire game are the ones that always give me such a hard time. In this case, I wasn't on this track for too long, but it did take 31 attempts. I always thought it was relatively easy to keep Blue Fire on this track. Well, not unless you're Mathieu R and you have a much better understanding of the track than I do. I can keep my reserves just fine. It's shaving off my personal best by about 3 seconds that kept me. Learned a new tactic for how to get past that figure 8 in this map, but once again this one boils down to cutting corners and keeping up with the ghosts at all times. A general running theme for all these time trials.
This beat cannot be beat!
Spyro Circuit with a good 10 attempts. Given my ability to play this track, facing Mathieu here wasn't really as tough as I thought. Granted, this was one of the closest times I have ever gotten, clocking in at another tie. But you know, I'll take it. At the very least, I learned something from this. For a while now, anytime I always get to the high cave section, that's where things start getting stressful. Those wizards were always a pain to go through. But once I took the time to learn this new strategy, going against this section wasn't really that much of a problem anymore. So in a way, I should be thanking Mathieu for making Spyro Circuit a lot more fun to breeze through.
Stop dragging your feet.
Gingerbread Joyride. Thankfully, I didn't spend too much time on this track. 9 attempts on a map like this is not all that bad. The real worrying factors about this track is the shortcut at the beginning of the track and the jello cubes at the very end. Thankfully, it was here that I started taking notes from people like the Viperian. First of all, hey man, how you doing? Second, it's through him I learned that assuming you're doing everything right, the jello squares are always going to be on the left and right side, allowing you enough space to breathe. So once I figured out how to do so, all I really had to do was keep up with Mathieu from there, leaving this track another solid win.
Beat cannot be beat.
And closing the video is Drive-Thru Danger. Going into this already, I knew this was going to be one of those tracks that will keep me here for a long time. And after 48 attempts, I finally managed to pull through. Without a doubt in my mind, this is one of the toughest tracks in the entire game to go through. You gotta have a good understanding of how this track works in order to make it seamlessly. How to U-turn, how to cut the corners, how to make it through the shortcuts flawlessly. It was nerve-wracking to say the least. But in the end, I got close enough to steal the win. I'll take that as my badge of honor. All this said, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the final developer time video where I'll be up against William P. Wish me luck. See you then, and take care.
Whoa! Supercharged! Maybe you could beat me if you stop dragging your feet.